Welcome, this is Kari from On Point Quilter. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about importing an image for tracing, breaking down a block to determine the snap settings, along with the segments for drafting the block, and then we are going to talk about how to modify rotary cutting for piecing the block. Let's start in the blog post, and I'm going to scroll down and you can see the Snowfall block, and I'm going to right click and do a save picture as or save image as, and then I will navigate to my EQ8 images, and I'm just going to call this Snowfall block from On Point Quilter OPQ and select save. In Electric Quilt, I'm going to select New Project, and I'm going to call this one Snowfall and select OK. View the project sketchbook, and on the Fabrics tab, select Clear and select OK and close. Select Search Fabric Swatches and navigate to the EQ Fabric Library. Scroll down to find the 2020 Fabric of the Month and select the plus. Scroll down to the last collection, which is the 12 Hoffman for Snowfall, and select the plus, and select the collection underneath that. Select all fabrics, followed by Add to Sketchbook. If you do not have this collection, I will give you a link in the blog post where you can download the free fabric collection from Electric Quilt. Then go ahead and close. On the home screen, select Design a Block from Scratch. Select a new block, Pieced Easy Draw Block, and select the tracing image followed by Import Image. Navigate to My EQ8 Images and select the Snowfall block and select Open. Under Crop Image, select OK. Let's take a look at what the number of equal divisions are, which we will use in our snap settings. The first thing that I notice about this block is it is comprised of squares, half-square triangle units, and flying geese units. The finish size of the squares and the half-square triangle units are the same. The flying geese units could be comprised of 2 half-square triangle units. If we were using just squares, we could fit 8 squares across the top and 8 squares vertically. Based on this, it appears that a good starting place for drafting this block is to set the snaps at 8 by 8. For ease in drawing the blocks, I'm also going to set the size at 8 by 8. So select Drawing Tools, and in the Precision toolbar, change the block width and height to 8 by 8, and change the snaps horizontal and vertical to 8 by 8. And then under the snapping options, the only thing we need to have turned on is Snap to Grid Point. I'm going to go back to the tracing image, and I'm going to now lighten this so you can see my drawing, and then go back to the drawing tools. Now the next thing I want to do is figure out some sections that have some similarities. Each corner could be comprised of a 9 patch with squares and half-square triangles. The section between each of the corners is comprised of flying geese units. The center is comprised of half-square triangles. So let's start by partitioning the block. Draw vertical and horizontal lines at 3 and 5 inches. Go to Color and back to Draw. This will break the line at each of the intersections. Let's start with one of the corner units. Select the Grid tool and change the columns and rows to 3 by 3. Drag a grid from the 0, 0 or upper left corner to the lower right of the corner segment. Then select the Line tool And now we're going to add the diagonal lines for the half square triangles for this section. With the pick tool, drag a box to completely enclose just the corner units. Now when I drag that box, I start in the center and then drag out to the upper left corner because I need to make sure that I'm completely enclosing everything in that corner group. Once I've selected them, they're going to be a little bit darker, and under Advanced Symmetry, I'm going to select Clone followed by Rotate 90, and I'm going to move those units to the upper right corner. Now because Snap to Grid is the only thing turned on, if I'm close and release, it should snap into position based on where we have set those snaps horizontal and vertical. Note that now the lines in the upper right corner are darker. Select Clone followed by Rotate 90 and move to the lower right corner, and Clone, Rotate 90 and move to the lower left corner. To confirm that everything looks good, I'm going to go to the Color tab. And now you can see each of those corner units, and I can add to Project Sketchbook. Doing these saves as we're creating the block gives us the ability to go back to an earlier version if something somehow gets messed up. Go back to the Draw tab, and now let's work on the units between the corners. With the drawing tools, select the grid, and now change the number of columns to 1 and the rows to 3, and drag a grid in that middle top section. That's going to give us all of the horizontal lines, and then use the line tool to draw the diagonal lines. Select the pick tool, drag a box to enclose all of the lines in that middle section, and select Clone, Rotate 90, move that to the right middle, Clone, Rotate 90, move it to the bottom middle, and Clone, Rotate 90, and move it to the left middle. The only thing left now is the center, and so with the grid tool, we're going to change columns and rows to 2 by 2, and drag a grid just in that center, and use the line tool and draw the diagonal lines. Go to the Color tab, and we are now ready to color the block. I chose to use 8 different fabrics for each of my snowflake blocks. To finish up the coloring, I can use the fabrics that I used for the first segments, which are now showing above fabrics, to finish the coloring for the block. Once you've got that colored, select Add to Project Sketchbook. Select Print and Export, and select Rotary Cutting. Make sure the block is set at 8 by 8. I'm going to label this Snowfall, and select Apply, and select Preview. Now, if I am using a specialty ruler, I am going to do some modifications of some of the pieces. So I will use 1.5 inches for all of piece A, but I'm going to oversize my half square triangles. So rather than 1 7/8, I'm going to change my measurements to 2 inches. And I will use the Tucker trimmer from Studio 180 Design to do the trim down. And rather than 3 1/4, I'm going to increase those to 3 1/2. And I will use the wing clipper from Studio 180 Design. Once I've printed out the rotary cutting chart, I'm going to add all of these notes so I remember how I am planning to do my piecing. This particular block would be a fun one to modify with different coloring options, and also to potentially eliminate some lines to simplify the piecing. I look forward to seeing your block and the changes that you make to it.